good afternoon, Dr. Qasim.
Good afternoon,
Good afternoon,
everyone.
everyone. Hi. Hello, good afternoon, Kak Daivan. And I'm so excited for today's agenda. I can't sleep last night because I'm so nervous. And how are you there?
Hi, good afternoon too. Yeah, also I'm good for today. If you don't nervous, today will be great. Today will be um interesting. We look the agenda for today. By the way, thanks for asking me. How about you, Revi?
I'm glad to hear that because it seems like this afternoon Semarang is quite a little bit hot, but yeah, it's fine. And I'm good too. Thank you for asking me that. And by the way, we have so many friends here already, and it's good for us to greet one of them here before we start our class. And maybe I would like to call someone here, maybe Muhammad Taki Ali, are you there? Maybe if you are available, you can turn your mic on. Hello. Oh, maybe he
Maybe he
is
can
nervous too.
turn on his mic. Maybe you can choose another person.
All right. Okay, I would like to choose Zaki Adi Saputra. Are you there? People are quite shy, don't you think, Daivan?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe one more choice again, or yeah, maybe one more. You can choose again, Revi.
It seems like I choose everyone who cannot open their mic. Maybe Tanya Katrunada is the last time actually. Are you there? Or maybe she is having an Asha prayer. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, maybe we can get to our next agenda.
Okay, no problem, Revi. Maybe there's any things that we can do right now. Maybe we're going to the next agenda, but I think so. I guess, and also you will guessing everyone here is good and excited to learn something from today's. And so maybe let's begin our agenda for today. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session in day 3 of IRUD Summer Course 2023. First of all, before I start, I would like to remind all of the students that the attendance will be monitored through the screen appearance. Therefore, it is mandatory for the student to turn on your camera and mute the microphone. Also, should any constraints be communicated to the committee with display name committee underscore in front of their names.
Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Revi Leilita Febriani, and my partner today is...
My name is Daivan Salhanda dari Ardiantoro, and we are from the Department of International Relations University Diponegoro, Indonesia.
Today, we are going to be the master of ceremony for this session, especially issues in peace and security, with the esteemed speaker, Dr. Mohammad Qasim Wafayezada from Kanazawa University, and Mr. Muhammad Faiq Adi Pratomo, S.IP M.Sc from Universitas Diponegoro. Today, we are going to have 4 agenda. Their introduction, panel discussion, ice breaking, Q&A, and closing session. This session is going to be moderated by Mr. Maula Hudaya, S.HubInt MA from the International Relations Department, Universitas Diponegoro.
Wow, today's session will be great, and we look from the topic for today, issue in peace and security. And Revi already tell to us who will be the moderator for this agenda. Maybe I will tell the CV of our moderator for today, Mr. Maula Hudaya. Before that, maybe committee can share screen our CV of our moderator for today. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Maula Hudaya is the lecturer of International Relations Department, University Diponegoro. He obtained his Master of Art in International Relations from Universitas Gadjah Mada, Indonesia in 2022. From 2015 until 2019, he spent his bachelor degree majoring in International Relations from Universitas Airlangga. Following his interest in international relations, he had much of study focusing, such as international crime against peace, Indonesia foreign policy, and foreign policy analysis. As both researcher and lecturer, Mr. Maula has been actively publishing academic publications. His newest academic publications are, first, The Discourse of Humanity in COVID-19 Pandemic, Study Case of Refugees in Indonesia in 2022. Second, The Establishment of Asian Framework of Action on Marine Debris, The Role of Shared Knowledge in 2022. Third, Product Upgrading Analysis of Instant Coffee Industry, a case study of Kepala-P Group in 2022.
Besides, as a lecturer in the Department of International Relations, Universitas Diponegoro, Mr. Maula had professional work previously as staff of the Board of Professors in Institut Teknologi 10 November, started in February 2022 until September 2022. Not only that, during his time as a student back then, he gained some achievement and awards, which are first, presenter at the 4th Politics and International Relations Congress held by Department of International Relations of Karadeniz Technical University, Turkey in 2021. Second, first best paper in Andalas International Relations Fair in 2018. And the last one is presenter at the 4th Student Seminar on Malaysia-Indonesia Relations in UNIZA and USM, Malaysia in 2018.
Wow, what an incredible list of experience by Mr. Maula, right? So without any further ado, let's give this next session to the respectable moderator. Please welcome Mr. Maula.
Thank you very much, Saifan and Jackie. Actually, I agree with Jackie that today Semarang is really hot, as well as our summer course, of course, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency Dr. Mohammad Qasim Wafayezada and Mr. Faiq. Today we will have two incredible speakers that will be talk about hybrid extremism by Dr. Qasim, and then online radicalization and counter-radicalization by Mr. Faiq. So I believe that our discussion today will be very interesting since Indonesia is still it's still a challenge for Indonesia to face the threat of radicalization and extremism. Okay, and then without further ado, please the committee, please share screen the CV of Dr. Qasim and then Mr. Faiq. And for Mr. Faiq and Dr. Qasim, we will have about 20 to 35 minutes to present your presentation, and after that we will enter to discussion session between the moderator and the speakers, and after that we will enter the quick session, and after that we will enter the breakout session, and the last one is the discussion between the participant and the speakers. Okay, Dr. Mohammad Qasim Wafayezada is a lecturer in the Kanazawa University, Japan. Please scroll down. Currently, he works as a special appointed professor in Kanazawa University, Japan. He taught post-conflict peace building and democratization at the Division of International Relations and Fundamental of Diplomacy and Diplomatic Relations at the Graduate School of Human and Social Environmental Studies, and also teaching a special course on fundamentals of international aviation law for the student of the Faculty of Law. And then Previously, he also worked as a research fellow. He conducted research on peace talk in Afghanistan and also published as a policy paper in 160 pages and have been involved in different research activities of the Institute. Currently, the AISS Institute has relocated to the UK and is affiliated with Cambridge University. For your information, Professor Qasim here used to serve as the acting Minister of Information and Culture of Afghanistan. Please hold on. There is still so many previous professional experience by Professor Qasim. Okay, Professor Qasim finished his Bachelor of Philosophy in Law in Graduate School of Human and Eco-Environment Studies in Kanazawa University, Japan, in March 2013, and he also obtained his Master of Art of Law in the Social System Graduate School of Human and Social Environment Studies, also in Kanazawa University of Japan. And his Bachelor of Art in Journalism was obtained in January 2005 in the Faculty of Journalism of Kabul University in Afghanistan. As a lecturer and also researcher, Professor Qasim has a lot of publication, especially in books and journal articles. His book entitled Ethics, Politics, and Peace Building in Afghanistan, the root cause of political conflict and the problems of democratic transition, which was published by Saarbrücken Scholars Press in 2013, and many more. Maybe we can give our time to Professor Qasim to share his material and to start the presentation session today. Professor Qasim, time is yours.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum to you and all the audience. So,
Walaikum salam.
should I start my presentation?
Here, the committee, please share Professor Qasim's presentation.
Okay. Well, I would prefer to share it from my side. Is it okay? Because I can just change the slides quickly as possible. Is it possible to just turn off the slide sharing from there? I will share it from my screen. Is it okay?
Okay, sir, this is possible.
Okay. Then I will. Sorry, just 1 minute. So I hope that everybody now can see the slides.
Yes, yeah. You
Okay.
can see the slides. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, I would like to say assalamu alaikum to all of you, and I would like to thank the Department of International Studies of Diponegoro University of Indonesia. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be part of this marvelous program. So thank you very much. Today, as perhaps the students have received in the reading, a pre-class reading for that I had shared before, so they should be familiar with the topic that we are going to discuss today. So I would try to just have a general overview of what we are going to discuss, because the time is limited and I'm not used to, professors having, all, classes are 90 minutes. So we've got used to that 90 minutes. So that makes us difficult to, finish our discussions within 25 minutes, but I will try to do that. If something was left, then we will try to cover that in the Q&A session and questions and answers and further deliberations that is following the presentation section. So let's start today. Me and Professor Faiq, we both will talk on the terrorism and extremism issue, which is, a significant threat to peace and security, both in the international, regional, and domestic levels. I hope that some parts that I leave out, so that will be covered, of course, by Professor Faiq. That peace and security are threatened by different factors. It's not only extremism, but poverty, climate change, spread of disease, interstate and intra-state conflicts, civilizational or identity clashes, proliferation of nuclear weapons, non-state armed groups, terrorist networks, geopolitical shifts and geoeconomic change itself in the regional and international systems, can pose threats to the already established, or the way that we've known the political order that ensures security and peace in international, regional, and local levels. These factors, all of them, impact the dynamics of continuity and change within the nation states and the international system, and cause unsettling of the regional or international political, international system that had otherwise dominated domestic, regional, and international politics. So among these, threatening factors to peace and security, global terrorism is perhaps an overwhelming issue, primarily affiliated with Islamic radicalism. As we've been all witnessed, since 2001, the dominating discourse in the international security system has been the global war on terrorism and counterterrorism efforts. And it has changed, our conceptions of security and peace, and our understandings, our conceptions has undergone tremendous change and transformations. So terrorism has appeared as a challenging force to international peace and security, national sovereignty, and even the survival of nation states in various parts of the globe. So how, why we are facing terrorism? That's the major question, and how it has evolved, what caused. I'm not going to just, look into that into details, as time will not allow us. But, I would like to indicate one, major division in terms of, historical periods. If you look back into the history, we've passed a period of religious confrontations from the Crusade Wars, and several other confrontations between, followers of certain faiths and confessions that in order to carve out empires in caliphates or to carve civilizations that would have resulted, of course, in carving civilizations, great civilizations in the world history. So that's a phase that is ending with the end of the empires. Then we have the confrontations of identity groups in modern power politics in terms and shapes of imperialism, colonialism, and its countering forces that ushered in the modern Westphalian nation system, which Charles Staley, a prominent scholar, describes as war-making states, and state makes war. That he meant that the current states has been born, out of a continued warfare. But what are, the problem? What is the exact problem, between is the fault lines that emerged in the transformation process between these two periods of the history. The transformation from the age of empires to the age of nation states. That was the main problem. If I may, I need to just, the emergence, and that fault line was caused by the emergence and continuity of the Western colonialism and imperialism as the main fault lines for such transformation, pushed, other nations to subjugation and caused exploitation and humiliation of different nations, including and especially in specifically Islamic countries. So it also caused the emergence of Islamism among other, reactionary forces, as well as Islamic nationalism. However, this Islamic nationalism and Islamism that we today know as political Islam primarily emerged as rival forces in Muslim societies, but both emerged in response to the colonialism and decline of Muslims' authority and status in the world politics in the face of changing geopolitics, state-making, and modernization. This change of Islam's status in the world politics, caused the emergence of the first wave of Islamism, which was Islamic revivalism of the early 18th century, which was driven by collective consciousness over the decline of Islam as a major source of power, knowledge, and wisdom, and reinforced by West's colonialism represented the first wave of representing the first wave of Islamism. If we look into the Islamic revivalism, the first Islamic movements, we find much conformity and orthodoxy at the core of that movement, which was a call for reinvention of the Ummah and reinstitution of the Medina Caliphate. So the general perception was that the only way to subdue the West's colonialism and imperialism for the Muslims is to unite under one umbrella, reinvent the Ummah, and reinstitute the Caliphate institution itself. So that was the primary conception that was upheld by the first wave of Islamic revivalists, first generation of Islamic revivalists. So if you look, in details, Muslim pundits or religious scholars and protagonists of Islamic revivalism, such as Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab in the Arabian Peninsula, or Sayyid Ahmad Baralbi in the Indian subcontinent, Al-Sanusi in Libya, and Muhammad Ahmad, the Mahdi of Sudan, known as the Mahdi of Sudan, all of them emphasized, the political assertiveness of Islam, in which Islam would serve as a political ideology rather than merely as a religious or a theological construct. being quite, distinct from politics and society. So this was the main idea which was promoted by the first generation of Islamists. But nationalism, while at the same time, as a rival force to the Islamism, also had emerged as a significant force in the Islamic world. And the internationalization of the Westphalian system of nation states gave rise and helped nationalism and ethno-nationalism as the main forces for shaping the nation state. And thus Islamism became confronted in the paradox between the borders of the nation state and the universality of Ummah that rendered them ineffective in redefining the state and society in the Islamic world. So it was a paradox whether to uphold the notion of Islamic universality and uniting the Muslims and restore their status and power in the global politics as one ummah under one caliphate, or to accept the nation state, boundaries which was, introduced under the Westphalian system and reinforced by its internationalization. So that was, the main paradox that they had to deal with. Therefore, if you look into the second wave of Islamic revivalism in the late 19th and early 20th century, such as Sayyid Jamaluddin Afghani and Muhammad Abdo, we can see that they tend to be more tolerant, toward nationalist groups as long as they serve the purpose of subduing the West expansionism in practice. So, but if we look, despite all these efforts, Islamist forces were, pushed to the, margins of society and politics in Islamic world, turning them into fringe groups, especially with the installation of secular governments and monarchies, which were supported by the West. So the Islamist forces and groups became further marginalized. Therefore, in short, we can say that, the evolution of Islamic radicalism, we can say initially it emerged as a reactionary force, like what we discussed in the case of the Islamic revivalism, revivalist movement, and it was a revivalist call for the reinvention of the Ummah, unification of the Ummah under one caliphate, and the institution of the caliphate institution itself. And then it turned into a revolutionary force that succeeded in certain areas like Iran, for example. We can give it, if you look, we'll give an example, and then failed in many other cases, while playing, in the margins of society and politics. Militant jihadism was promoted later during the Cold War, and especially while it was introduced by scholars such as Faiq, and it found support during the Cold War, both in international terms and as a way to resist the socialism or the Soviets' expansionism at the time. And then the final wave was, the global terrorism. Sometime the question will be that, simply if we ask generally what we've heard in the past 2 decades, explaining, from Western media, explaining the, Islamic terrorism or the terrorism which has been associated with Islamic radicalism. So the answer from, or the explanation from them has been straightforward, seeing Islam itself as, something that naturally produces terrorism because of its universalist agenda. But actually, it's not that simple. One explanation that we can look into is the frustration aggression cycle that I have applied this in explaining the emergence of jihadism, the notion which was, the theory of aggression proposed by John Dollard and Neil Miller and others. So they say that frustration occurs when one is blocked from achieving a certain goal at a certain point in time. Whether or not this blockade leads to aggression depends on the interplay of four factors. One, the importance of the blocked goal. Two, the intensity of the blockage. Three, the frequency of the blockage. Four, and the anticipation of the punishment for responding aggressively. And if you look into, the evolution of Islamism in the way that the Islamic world has responded to the West's colonialism and expansionism or imperialism or continued exploitation, we see this frustration, how, that frustration and establishment of secular governments being supported by the West has pushed all Islamists, even the moderate ones, moderate Islamist forces to the fringe, turned them into fringe groups, to the margins of the society, getting them frustrated. So out of frustration, while they've been devoid and deprived of having access to formal institutional platforms to play out and to have a clear manifestation, political manifestation, then of course that opens the way for back channels, which is terrorism, which is playing not by the rules of the game, but out of the game. So this has been one of the explaining factors if we look into the birth of the Islamic jihadism. But in addition to that, Cold War politics, in the introduction of militant Islamism by Sayyid Qutb and his disciples, the rise of Islamic nationalism in the Indian subcontinent and South Asia, influenced by Abu al-Ala Maududi, and the successful revolution, Islamic revolution in Iran, they all provided Islamism with momentous epochs, which I put more emphasis on the impact of the Cold War, both in terms of giving a rise to Islamic radicalism, and as well as the end of Cold War unleashed tremendous forces of ethnic nationalism, that swept, vast parts of the globe from the Caucasus and Balkans to Southeast Asia, Middle East, and Northern Africa. So that had a tremendous impact on international politics. If you look into the new narrative that Islamists upheld, we can find that Islamist universalism was displaced in the Islamist narrative as they came to play on the nationalistic grounds and emphasized creating post-colonial states strictly based on Sharia law, including ideology, institutions, law, and foreign policy. So it means that the line separating the nationalists and Islamists were growing thin. So they were getting closer to each other, while the Islamists found that reinstitution of the Caliphate, especially after the fall of the Ottoman Caliphate in 1924, that was, that sealed, the end of the Caliphate institution, and it made it difficult under the internationalization of Westphalian system. It made it impossible for the institution of the Caliphate system or the invention of the Ummah for Islamist forces. So they came to accept the national boundaries, the nation-state system, but instead they tried to emphasize on the imposition of Sharia law within these nation states. So this was a transformation that we can see in the evolution of Islamic radicalism that turned, during the Cold War, it turned into Islamic militant jihadism, and then it was called Islamic terrorism. So if you look into this map, the question is, one main question in this session is that, so once it was global terrorism. And if you look into this map, certainly it shows that terrorism exists, to certain degrees around the world. Terrorist attacks have taken place, in varying levels and degrees around the world. So it seems that terrorism is a global phenomenon and a global threat for peace and security. But we need to understand that all of these, change in the nature of Islamic radicalism or its evolution into Islamic terrorism has not been, part of the inner dynamics of Islamic society. Coming out of the Islamic teachings, which is, the religion of compassion and mercy and tolerance. But instead, we need to look into the role of the international power politics. It would be no exaggeration to say that the rise of Islamic radicalism and fundamentalist groups owes much to the Cold War, politics of containment, and especially the Green Belt project of the US. At the time of the Cold War, especially after the invasion of the Soviets to Afghanistan, so the Green Belt project, which is a well-known project, was designed to mobilize Islamic Muslim societies, Muslim communities against the so-called godless, communists. So to create a security green belt that would buffer between the socialist camp and the Western liberal camp. So that green belt, green belt would be the Islamic, communities, to mobilize Islamic communities. So they came to promote Islamic radicalism, Islamic militant jihadism, that gave birth to the terrorism in the shape of Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and many other groups that who are active now around the world. So we can see that the international power politics under the bipolar system of the Cold War politics was, had much to do with giving rise to the terrorism and the level of its impact on local and international systems. So today, terrorism has turned into a cross-cutting threat. Why? Because first of all, it's an ideologically motivated. Second, it sees the world as divided into spheres of war and peace. And third, it uses and utilizes any means to meet the aims, even if it is to bombing like the Bali a terrorist attack, or the terrorist attack in Jakarta, or different in numerous terrorist attacks that took civilians' lives, innocent lives around the world. And it sans frontiers or borderless. They are stateless actors. They are active around the world, and also that they thrive and develop on the fault lines of regional geopolitics and the international system, as they grow out of the competition between the East and West during the Cold War. Even today, they are playing on the fault lines, geopolitical and geoeconomic fault lines, in which now China seems to be one of the main players. And also they are seen as reserve forces in power politics. Much of these, some of superpowers, they are not trying to, put down terrorism, but they are trying to maintain them as a reserve forces, in different areas, in different localities, so that can be used, later for political purposes. And that they are actively exploit local grievances to advance their agenda in mass mobilization. And the other, and finally, that terrorists see war, violence, and terror as the only means to win. So they don't believe in a democratic, open competition, political competition, in a competitive process to win the politics. These are that makes them, less reconcilable.
I'm sorry, Professor Qasim. I think you have 1 minute left for the session.
So in that case, I would escape these parts. Sorry, I said first that, okay. So my final discussion, just to wrap up within this 1 minute, is that today a new trend has emerged, and that is that given the new geopolitical shifts that we are witnessing in the world, withdrawal of the United States from the most of the regions, especially the Middle East, so hybrid extremism has emerged as a new face of terrorism, which means that within these fault lines, opportunities have provided for the Islamist or terrorist forces to reassert themselves, return from the margins of the politics and society, work out and collaborate with ethno-nationalist forces as they have done in the Caucasus and Balkans, and restoration of the Taliban with a mixture of ethno-nationalist and Islamist agenda would serve as a good example that today we are facing localized, the new trend is localized terrorism, which means isolated danger, which means that the world, the international community, the international system would not provide any support or would not take any counter-terror initiative, because the agenda, the global part, the global world is omitted from the terrorist agenda, which means they would not pose any danger to them. So the danger is directed toward local societies. So isolated dangers from the international system would pose a grave danger to the local peace and security and stability. This is the new face of terrorism, which is part of my new research, and it's going to be published maybe in the coming days in the International Journal of Review of Faith and Religion. And finally, I would say some word about Indonesia, that today, given all these problems in the Islamic world, Indonesia, with the diversity that it has, with 1,340 or more ethnic groups, Indonesia has been able to uphold the Sharia law and to forge a nation out of this diversity, and to overcome the terrorist groups' threats in the past decades, according to the UN reports. So now Indonesia, as the most populated Islamic country, it has political and economic way, so it can serve as a model for pushing forward the Islamic societies, Islamic countries toward moderation, toward effective, and lead them toward effective ways and means of counter-terror, operations and activities and mechanisms, and addressing the underlying causes of that breeds terrorism. That's my final word. If something was left out, we will have time to return and discuss that during the Q&A session. So thank you very much. Sorry for not being able to just quickly cover the whole presentation. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Qasim, for the wonderful presentation. Now we will have our second speaker. But before Mr. Faiq start his presentation, please the committee to share his curriculum vitae first. Okay, our second speaker is Mohammad Pratomo, Master of Art. He finished Master of Science. He finished his Master of Science in Strategic Studies in Rajaratnam School of International Studies in Singapore, and he earned his bachelor degree from the Department of International Relations in Universitas Gadjah Mada in Indonesia, and then he is currently a lecturer in the Department of International Relations, Universitas Diponegoro. And previously, he worked as a research analyst in Bapenas and House of Representative of DKI Jakarta Province in Komisi A. And then previously, he also worked as in Satu Data Indonesia in the staff office, presidential staff office as intern. And then before that, he also worked as intern in the Center for Indonesian Policy Studies in Jakarta, and also he has experience in Direct Young Fellow in 2017, and also he enrolled in ASEAN University Network International Quality Assurance System in 2016. And Mr. Faiq also has many achievements. The first one is accepted poster CTBT Science and CTBT Science and Technology Conference in 2019, and then he earned grade A- in dissertation track in the RSIS, and he also ever became paper presenter in the International Conference on Feminism in Jakarta in 2016. He also enrolled in inter-university exchange as the participant in 2015, and he also ever become the university representative in 61st session of the Harvard National Model United Nations that has been held in Boston, US. And he also won the third place and Viewer's Choice Award in the 15th ASEAN University Network for ASEAN Plus 3 Educational Forum and Young Speakers Contest. He also has so many additional skills here, including language proficiency, and then copywriting and editorial skill, and also public speaker. Next, please. Okay, I think Mas Faiq, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Maula. For the committee, please share my slides. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So while Prof. Qasim presented about the macro dimensions of terrorism, I will present about the micro. I will focus more about the locals, about Indonesia in the specific, in a micro level. And I will focus specifically on online radicalization and counter-radicalization in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. Our agenda is we will be studying case study first. Peyton S. Gendron. This was the Buffalo shooting in 2022. And then we will gradually learn about the online components of terrorism and radicalization and how it increasingly takes place online. And then after, for our last topic, we will be studying counter-radicalization efforts by the Indonesian cyber warriors. Next. So first, we will go over a recent case. This is the 2022 Buffalo shooting. Yes. So this was a case study in online radicalization. We can see here the basic facts, namely that Peyton S. Gendron, you can see his mug there. He was 18. How many of you are 18? I probably quite a lot of you were 18 very recently, right? But anyway, at 18 years old, he went to his local top supermarket and he shot up the parking lot and then went inside and then shot up the security guard and also any civilians who happened to be nearby. 11 of the 13 victims were Black. This was a terrorist act. This was an ethno-nationalist act. So it is important to emphasize here that terrorists are not only Muslims. This is a dangerous stereotype in that most of the terrorists now, especially in the United States, are ethno-nationalists. They're right-wing terrorists. They're racists. Next. And this is what makes this important. This is what makes this case interesting. So you can see the rifle he used was an AR-15. It has been written on with racist memes. You can see there, here's your reparations. This is a hot button topic for the racial politics in the United States, because the Black people there, they demanded reparations for the hundreds of years of slavery, and this guy shot them up. Yeah. And then we can also see that he streamed his shooting live on Twitch. So any of you who subscribe to game streamers, he live streamed his shooting on Twitch for about 2 minutes. So he live streamed actually shooting people. And then he also published racist manifestos on a private Discord server. Those of you who have Discord accounts, he did this as well. And then his manifesto, most damningly, his manifesto specified that his beliefs derived mostly from the internet. So before, I read a very enlightening study on this topic. Before 2020, he was a mostly normal person. And then he got radicalized literally in a very short period of time, in 1 year, from 2020 to 2021. And before that, he was quite a normal person. And then after that, after he checked out 4chan, after he checked out various racist manifestos, which he then plagiarized for his manifesto, he became radicalized and he shot up a number of people. So we can see here from the case study, it is a very serious case. And it is a very surprising and shocking case because it happened almost exclusively online. That means that any of you people, any of you participants may be radicalized online, yeah, through the efforts of these organizations, and not even through the efforts of organizations, but just through the efforts of a decentralized network that disseminates these radical ideas. Yeah. So that is why there is a big urgency to actually study online radicalization. Next. And local terrorist acts increasingly feature an online component. This is the dark side or the shadow aspect of global thinking, global but local, global thinking but local action. It is like a dark parody of that. So especially lone wolf shooters, we can see that they increasingly use online components to spread their message, to magnify their actions. So we can see here live stream terror. Christchurch in 2019 was a shooting in a mosque that was live streamed. Ratchasima in Thailand, you can see the guy doing it. His live stream is right there. This was a shooting in Thailand in 2020. This also was live streamed. And in Boulder, of course, in America in 2021, acts of terror are quite regularly live streamed there. And then, of course, there is an online planning and a manifesto component. So the planning effort is decentralized. You can communicate with your fellow terrorists using Discord, using Telegram, and it doesn't have to be, on the ground. And then this is another interesting point is on-live extremism. So recently there has been debate whether or not you can be radicalized purely from online sources. Yeah, whether you can just read these various manifestos and then become motivated to blow yourself up. But there is no dichotomy. Yeah, the newest research, 2021-2022 research has shown that these work together. And it is possible actually to be radicalized online, although not totally. Yeah. But as we will see in my presentation, this is not something that we can ignore, even though they do not blow themselves up, for example. But this is not something that we can ignore. And then the last one, and very tellingly, is reproduction. Yes, so there are a lot of copycats. One online terrorist act inspires another and becomes a template. Christchurch in 2019 became a template for the shooting, the Peyton S. Gendron shooting that I just explained to you. The template was in 2019. So we can see the danger of these acts, of these terrorist acts, and the danger of online radicalization through this trend of local terrorists acting increasingly in online spaces. Next. Next, please. Next. Okay, there were some technical issues. Please stand by. Okay, could you move to the next slide? Thank you. Yes, okay, so this is the definition of radicalization. We will briefly read this. It is the process by which an individual adopts radical views on political, religious, and social issues. Of course, some remain inactive, yeah, while others take violent action based on radical views. This is an important but not so significant difference. So whether or not you blow yourself up, whether or not you choose to shoot up your school is not as relevant to this discussion as these radical thoughts that you have, because there are many ways of supporting terroristic acts without using violence. You can donate, for example, your money to the terrorists. You can You cannot report them. So for example, you have a neighbor who is a terrorist, which is a disturbing possibility, but it happens, and people do not report them. Yeah. So this is also considered as radicalization, where to the point where you see you share their views that you essentially are ignorant. You essentially do not do anything while they move towards violent acts. Next. Yeah. So this is causal mechanisms of online shooting, online radicalization of lone wolf shooters. This is a very, very new research by Molman and Ravndal in 2021. So as you can see, these are the ways in which people get radicalized online. First, radicalization online starts when individuals compensate offline vulnerabilities with online membership. So for example, if we take a case study of our beloved moderator here, Mas Maula, for example. If, for example, Mas Maula is afflicted, for example, if he is poor, if he is recently fired from his job, and then he cannot act against that. He cannot do anything to compensate that. So what he does, according to this mechanism, is he goes online. Yeah, he goes online to receive his self-esteem. He goes online to brag to his friends. He goes online to be racist to others. Yeah, and what this leads to is isolation. So the offline isolation of individuals leads to online socialization. So the more that you're dependent on online sources of socialization, the more that you could become isolated in real life. Yeah. And of course, there is facilitation. Online spaces provide easy access to materials. We will show in subsequent slides how this has an impact. And echo chambers. So for example, our beloved moderator, Mas Maula, he joins a terroristic forum, for example, or terroristic Discord channel. It happens that his views are constantly echoed back to him. So everybody is agreeing to his views. For example, he says that, oh, maybe I should blow up the Dprd building, or oh, maybe I should blow up some other building. And then his friends in these echo chambers just keep saying yes. They keep saying, oh, okay, you should do it, instead of, for example, discouraging him or asking him to calm down, for example. And this is why there is an acceleration effect. Online spaces make the radicalization process faster. So whereas, for example, there was a study that was published in 2016 that examined ISIS fighters, and it took them around 2 or 3 years to become radicalized enough to actually go to the Middle East and attempt to fight people. But with online spaces, the amount of time that they need in order to become radicalized goes down. It can be as fast as the Peyton Gendron case. It can be as fast as 1 year. So this is why, even if we take the position that you need to have an offline radicalization process in addition to your online radicalization process, the online radicalization process is a multiplier. It makes things faster. And this is why we should pay attention to it. Next. This trend is replicated in Indonesia. For example, Dian Yulianovi, the infamous bom panci woman, the infamous woman who tried to blow up a building using kitchen utensils. She was radicalized through online, an on-life process. So this is a combination of online and offline process through Telegram networks while in Taiwan. So she was a TKI. She was a foreign migrant worker. And then she had her online wedding with the bomb husband. So she was wedded online to her husband so that she could blow herself up if needed, because there is an ideology for these terrorist groups that virgins are not allowed to blow themselves up. So they must be married off first. And then she attempted a terror attack in 2018. You can see that the process is quite fast. From 2015 till 2018, only 3 years. So not even the time that you can get a bachelor's degree, she was already trying to blow herself up. And what is interesting is that terrorist networks now increasingly take a soft sell or ideological dissemination approach. This is a very new trend, and as elucidated by Pak Daniel from the BNPT in 2023. And there's a trend of jihadi cool memes, rebranding jihadist forms of terrorism as hip, as cool, using memes and magazines. We will see some examples in the following slides. Next. Yeah. So there is no direct call for terrorism or action, but there is the dissemination of extremist standing beliefs. So the radicalization effort now is, it might not result in violence, but it results in a climate of radicalism. So there is a distancing between non-Muslims and Muslims. So sometimes you have radical preachers saying that we Muslims should not get close to kafir. We should live in our own communities. We should not get too close to, for example, the Chinese minority, because they are non-Muslims. And this is important, the spreading of conspiracy theories. Yes, I'm sure everyone here has encountered at least one conspiracy theory, maybe in WhatsApp, maybe in Discord, maybe in Facebook. But this is a deliberate tactic sometimes. They spread conspiracy theories in Indonesia, usually centering around Chinese Indonesian minorities. So the ethnic Tionghoa, usually there's a lot of racism in these conspiracy theories. And then, of course, the spreading of coded memes of irony, irony in scare quotes. They're not being ironic. Yes. So for example, we will see a number of memes using the Wojak format, if you're familiar with those. But those were used in order to disseminate radical beliefs. So we shall see later. The main goal seems to be that enlarging the tolerance towards terrorism supporting activities. So with Dian Yulianovi, for example, there was not only just one terrorist in that case. There were several. There were 4. And these attacks were coordinated online, and they were coordinated throughout Indonesia. Although Dian Yulianovi was stopped, a number of others were not. And the most infamous was an attack that killed where the family killed themselves and their children. And this, you have to understand that these attacks do not occur in a vacuum. There has to be someone supplying the money. There has to be someone supplying the materials for the bomb. There has to be someone who supplies the car, who supplies the contacts necessary, and that sort of thing. And the problem is that these radicalism adjacent activities, they're targeted towards recruiting people who are willing to do that, or who are people in communities who are willing to turn a blind eye. Yeah, this is called prosumer behavior, right? There was a very recent study, again in 2020, that also tracked terrorism support even among Undip students. Yes, in Undip students, in Universitas Airlangga, and UGM students. We will see the results after this. And these people moved from deploring these terrorist radicalism memes to actually disseminating them. So sometimes all you need is to retweet, or sometimes all you need is to just spread that WhatsApp message to another person. And this is what these terroristic groups want. And they have been fairly successful in this. And the second one, of course, is terrorism funding. These use a lot of fronts usually. And the aim of the terrorist is to enable them to do that. Next. So this is an example of prosumer behavior. You can read by yourself. If people don't like us, surely we are said to be radical, even though it's our belief. Our religion is actually full of love. Let people not continue to persecute us, so we must be tactical too. I send news to groups or to other friends without any purpose. When I read it and I think the content is good, I share it with friends. That is an example of prosumer behavior. So these people are radicalized by sharing these memes, sharing these WhatsApp blasts. Next. This is an example. This is an old example from Al-Qaeda in 2010, making a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. So this was very interesting in 2010. This was meant to be disseminated very widely, and you can see that it is meant to radicalize people through online spaces. Next. These are some okay, sorry, my thing disconnected. Next slide, please. Yeah, you can see examples of TikTok memes on the left. Wojak, if you're familiar with that meme format. This is about the Czechian Mujahideen. And you can read here a local example of a meme. Lowongan budak seks pemuas birahi Mujahideen. Yeah, this was actually disseminated in 2022 and had to be stopped. And on the right, you can see also the same Mujahideen Czechnya. Akan datang, kamu akan berakhir sama seperti Charlie Hebdo. This is a threat, an online threat. Yes. So you can see these examples of these sorts of memes. Next, please. So there are counter narratives. There are ways where Indonesians fight these radicalizations efforts. For example, by NU. NO has NO cyber troops or cyber warriors via Twitter handles such as Cyber Answer Media. I'm not trying to advertise for the NO, but they are the only ones who have this kind of thing in an organized manner. So it has been the subject of studies. The Kiai and Ulama are positioned as counter stars. They're positioned as, you know how sometimes the terrorists also have like their own ulama, their own religious leaders. These NO people try to position NO Kiai as a counter, as a rival to those radicalist preachers. Next. For example, the memes that they distribute are very mild, you can see, but their target is not necessarily people who have been radicalized, but people who have the potential to be radicalized. So it is a counter narrative. So for example, you have a preacher's preaching that, oh, we should blow ourselves up. This guy, these cyber troops try to offer up an alternative that said, no, we shouldn't blow ourselves up. Simple as that. Next. So we can see here narrative contestation. Yeah. So these efforts have not been unopposed. So for example, we can see Kiai to Kiai combat here. Abu Janda kritik ceramah Ustadz Zulkifli soal pesta seks di surga dan teroris. So this was a recent case where Abu Janda, one of the NO preachers, he criticized another Ustad who said that people who blow themselves up will have 72 virgins in heaven. So we can see here narratives being countered and countered again. So for example, in the left, the people who are against this Ustad said that he looked like a woman, and this was swiftly responded, and you get a lot of these narrative contestations in the local level. Whether or not this is good can be debated, but it shows that there is a process of counter narratives emerging, that people who radicalize are not doing it alone. Yeah, there are people who are against them, at least. Next. And that's all for my presentation. Later in the breakout room, we can discuss this question, like if your online friend was in the process of getting radicalized, what would you do? I would like to have an active discussion in the breakout session if you will join me. And thank you.
Well, thank you, Mas Faiq, for the wonderful presentation. Actually, before we enter the breakout room, we still have a discussion between three of us, the moderator and speakers. And after that, we still have a quick time and ice breaking session. And after that, we enter to the breakout session. Okay, so it's very interesting presentation from Professor Qasim and also Faiq. Actually, the presentation of both Professor Qasim and Ms. Faiq is quite related with my previous research. The first one, Professor Qasim, I conducted brief research about the situation in Afghanistan. Actually, I tried to analyze how Taliban, the non-state actor that logically weaker than the Afghan military, which has better funding, better training, but actually the Taliban managed to overthrow the government and win the battles against the Afghan military. So what I would like to confirm to Professor Qasim is what actually what is Taliban and how strong are they, and what can we learn about the situation from the situation in Afghanistan, so we can how to say So it is what happened in other countries like Indonesia. And for Mr. Faiq, I also conducted research regarding the online radicalization. My case study is in Kazakhstan in 2014. What make it interesting is actually Kazakhstan is quite moderate country, moderate Islam country, but in 2014, when ISIS came to power, beginning to exist, the people in Kazakhstan start to radicalize. The radicalization in Kazakhstan just go boom like that. From my, I found that the radicalization in Kazakhstan, this is itself has very advanced online propaganda division, and they also have they call it wilayat or province. And the Kazakhstan is included in the wilayat of Caucasus or province of Caucasus. So the radicalization there is, I can say it as hybrid radicalization. Radicalization there is happen both through the social media and through the how to say it. In Indonesia, we know that how to say it, forum-forum pengajian, something like that, offline, and both and at the same time they also use the online propaganda, and they even so advanced in the online propaganda. They even modified the content to with Kazakh language, with the Kazakhstan local context, and they also create the modes of famous video game GTA 5 into jihadist scenario, something like that. Is that also happen in Indonesia as well? And what I would like to ask both of you, distinguished speaker, why it is always someone blowing themselves up in Indonesian context in front of police office or military office, and I think that's not really let's say it, not really effective to scare Indonesian people, because if you talk about terrorism, the main goal of their action is to make terror to gain political changes, right? But in Indonesia itself, for example, in 2016, when terrorists blew up himself in the Sarinah, Jakarta, maybe about 15 to 30 minutes after the terrorist attack, in Indonesia we have a lot of food seller, like cilok seller. Cilok is a traditional food from West Java, sir, for your information. The cilok seller is already open their tenant in the terrorist site. So it is, I think it is not effective at all to blow yourself in the front of police office or military office or in the crowd just to make people scared. But instead, if you learn from ISIS, they also target the energy sources, the oil field, and indeed they take over the oil field and sell the oil to the black market. But they also use it as element of terror. They blew it up so people scared because they don't get any power supplies, for example. And then we can also learn from the Russia and Ukraine war. The first thing that Russia do when they enter the Ukraine, they occupied the nuclear power plant first in order to limit the option of the Ukraine government, because if the Russia occupied the nuclear power plant, the Ukraine people will not get enough power, and the government will also think twice to attack the Russia there. Why did the terrorist group, especially in Indonesia, why they are not attacking the power plant site like maybe the Python electric power plant that powered the whole Java and Bali Island, so it will make any greater political changes that they want. Maybe that's all from me, Professor Qasim and Mas Faiq. Thank you very much.
So, should I start first? Just a quick answer. Thank you very much. First, I would like to thank Professor Faiq for his fascinating presentation. I also learned much from his micro narrative on the strategies, mobilization strategies, focusing with online, techniques and tactics that the terrorist networks and groups utilizes. It was really great, and thank you for the question. Actually, before going to that, I would like to just touch the issue that you said, how they are acting in this way. If you look back into Islam, I'm just quoting hadith which is sahih, and it says وَأَنْتُمْ مَسْعُودُونَ حَتَّى عَلَى الْبِقَاءِ وَالْبَهَائِمِ. And Islam, it says that all Muslims, all of you, our Prophet says, all of you are responsible even toward the environment and the animals. So, and you can find numerous similar, hadiths in Islam that orders, that signifies the responsibility. And there is one another issue, that Islam is against the notion or the maxim that some Machiavellians may use, that the end justifies the means. Islam says the ends should be acquired through, reasonable and just means, not any means. But what you see in the terrorists' behavior is that they, do exactly, in a way they think that, okay, the end will justify the means, So whatever, if it is destruction of properties, if it is killing civilians, if it is, cutting the, electricity transmission lines, destroying the bridges, water canals, or bringing any sort of destruction that weakens the government that they despise and they're fighting against. So that would be justified by the end, which according to them would be restoration of a full-fledged, Sharia law, which is against the Islamic thoughts, and they have utilized, we have seen about, the pictures showed by Professor Faiq about the jihad and nikah, for example, for the purpose of mass mobilization, attracting jihadists from around the world. ISIS, introduced the notion of jihad and nikah, which was, obviously a sexual slavery, incorporated into the Islamic jihadism. So such things, are, they are exploiting the situation. They are using any means to get to their objectives, defined objectives, or to the predefined ends. So that's one issue that I wanted to touch. And that makes it difficult to counter the terrorists, because the governments are bound by law, by legal mechanisms, by just mechanisms. So you cannot, back channel and bypass the law and do whatever, counter them in their own way. So that's restrictions, that restricts the ability of governments to effectively counter the terrorism. That's one point. Regarding the question on Afghanistan, I would like to say that in Afghanistan, you're right. We had a potent, 2070,000 strong, men in our defense forces and also police forces, law enforcement, agencies. All of them were well trained, well equipped. But the fall of the government, there are three things that I would like to highlight. First of all, it brings us to the hybrid extremism and its, effectiveness. The Taliban, when they were ousted, in 2001 after the invasion of the US, so they knew that working with Al-Qaeda and sticking only to the ideological side of the thing won't help them. So they needed to localize themselves, connect themselves with the ethno-nationalist passions of the Pashtuns, who claim to be the majority in Afghanistan, to win, the hearts and minds of the Pashtuns. So they were, able to mobilize support from them, with mixing the two, the Islamism and the Pashtun ethno-nationalism. So it meant that, the reward of the triumph of the Taliban for the Pashtuns will be the restoration of their absolute dominance in Afghanistan politics that would be supported, of course, in the state of the shared power scheme that was introduced by the Bonn Agreement in 2004 under the auspices of the United Nations. So this is first. And second, the liberal peace building itself, the limits of liberal peace building itself is a matter of question. In divided societies like Afghanistan, which is composed of, different ethnic groups and religious sects, usually, the liberal peace building methods are, introduces competition. In fragile societies, competition itself undermines the solidarity, the cooperation and collaboration that you need for peace. So in order to be able to compete in politics, they tend to, to retreat to their ethnic enclaves and mobilize based on ethnic basis or maybe, sectarian basis. So that was also undermining the government. Third was the United States, intentionally in 2001 when Bonn Agreement was signed. So there was a call from Afghan politicians that let's include the Taliban and the new government since they are vanquished, they are weak, they are willing to be included in the government. So we will have to end this story and restore peace, a lasting peace in Afghanistan, which was rejected at the time by the United States representatives who were, there. And then in 2019, they proposed, to President Ghani that she should step down and a reconciliation process should be started with the Taliban since, President Ghani resisted that proposal. So, there was, Mr. Khalilzad was representing the United States on Afghanistan peace talks. So he was highlighting how, United States didn't get anything from the war in Iraq, and instead that benefited Iran. So he was pushing the idea that if we leave a fragile government fighting the Taliban, so that won't serve any purpose. So let's bring back the Taliban, keep them under control. So that will be a reserve force for us. So the next time they sign the Doha Agreement unilaterally with the Taliban, who were at the time not a state actor, but a non-state actor, and they bypassed the Afghan government, which legitimized the Taliban. On the other hand, the regional powers, starting from China to Iran to many others, celebrating the departure of the United States from the region, they found the opportunity to quickly move in and start supporting the Taliban and welcome them as the victors of the jihad against the Americans. And the other thing was that the Americans were controlling the whole logistical systems of the military up to 2001. I served as Director General of Afghanistan Civil Aviation, and I have been working and meeting with the Director General of your Civil Aviation, frequently, and we've been in touch. In touch with each other. At that time, I was, pushing this thing that a transition period that would enable us to bridge the gaps should be initiated, but they were declining any proposal on that case. So suddenly they cut off all logistical support. all logistical support. So the military was paralyzed. They were left without any support. And then, that caused the Doha peace agreement, plus cutting the logistical, support system, that caused the collapse of the government in a way that opened the way for restoration of terrorism in Afghanistan. And that's the game now, that they are not trying to recognize that, because recognizing the Taliban will bring them defamation rather than that's not adding any value. And then they are not going to work on a durable peace scheme that on an inclusive government that would include other political parties and different ethnic groups, to solve the Afghanistan issue, because they need, a disturbing force in the region. So because there is a geopolitical shift is happening, as you know, the BRICS, the new moves, and the China's move toward and focus toward the Middle East, that has caused some shift and drift in geopolitical and geoeconomic terms in the region. And plus the Soviet, the Russian war in Ukraine. So all of them, if you put together, have, created new dynamics for change in the international politics, for which a reserved and radical force like the Taliban in Afghanistan being paid, while they are being paid $1.8 billion per year directly by the United States, means that they are reserved for the day to come. And they will think on how to play with that. So that was a game played by the United States in Afghanistan government, in the Afghanistan nation, was bypassed, and no one was informed. No one was informed. They did their own, they implemented their own policy to withdraw and leave something in the region as a troublemaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Qasim. It's really good answer. Maybe if it is possible, Professor Qasim, after this session, maybe if I would like to interview you for to update my research, is it possible?
Of course, I will be available anytime. Just sorry for today because I was sick. I was not feeling well since yesterday, so I was a little bit, feeling not good. So, but in the following days, I'll be anytime at your disposal.
Thank you very much, sir. Since the committee have reminded me of the time limit, maybe we will move to Faiq to answer the questions.
Okay. So for the first question was the effectiveness of terror attacks, and why do they use such wasteful tactics, according to Maula. Actually, this is a combination of several factors that I can see in Indonesia. There's been several studies, 2 studies at least about this in 2017 and 2018. So the relation is towards stochastic terrorism. The trend is towards stochastic terrorism. This is terrorism that is not so well organized, but spontaneous, almost spontaneous. So for example, you have a trend nowadays of so-called lone wolf actors, where the impression that people get is that suddenly their neighbor shoots up somebody, and suddenly their neighbor blows themselves up or blows their own family. So the goal of that is this climate of uncertainty, this climate of at any time there could be an attack. And although this has not been entirely effective, it is wrong to say that there is no planning behind it, right? There is an attempt to to achieve some strategical objectives. And this includes, for example, attacks directed towards the police. Yeah, if you notice that many attacks, the newest was just in March. Was it in March? It was in last year, actually. It was in July in Astana Anyar in Surabaya, and where they attacked the local police headquarters. And that resulted in about 11 deaths. And this has been a trend since 2016. So the terrorists have consistently targeted, these symbols of order, these people who are directly obstructing their efforts, and the people who represent order in the Indonesian mind. So this is an attempt also to delegitimize the police. As you can see, in a lot of terrorist cases, it is not only that when they blow up that they cause disruptions within the politics, but also during the planning process, and also after, when the government steps in to prevent further attacks. Usually they will, for example, they will arrest people, or they will kill people through these anti-terrorist operations. And these are exploited for propaganda. These are exploited, for example, for various amounts of memes saying that, for example, oh, the police has gone too far. The police has shut up these terrorists. The police has have imprisoned these terrorists for a long period of time without parole, for example. And this is, as Prof. Qasim has said, this is a limitation of the government, because the government has to actually follow these rules. And what the terrorists are trying to do is they're trying to exploit this vulnerability by saying that the government and the terrorists are the same. So it is better as Muslims to side with the terrorists. The government and the terrorists are all doing violence. They try to make an equivalency. And this is what's being targeted by these attacks, for example, on Polri, on the police. It is not only a form of revenge, it is not only a form of symbolic attack, but it is also very tactical. Yeah. So that answered my first question. And the second question is quite easy. Are terrorists modifying, like, for example, games? In Indonesia, not yet, but there have been a lot of examples of terrorists using games to spread their propaganda. For example, in 2003, the Mujahideen, they released an official, the Mujahideen of, I forgot which country, but they released a game that was a first-person shooter in the style of Counter-Strike, but you were the terrorists. And white supremacists, so the ones who usually use this tactic of games and using propaganda are more white supremacists. These terrorists, these domestic terrorists in America, where they actually produce these games. For example, there was Ethnic Cleansing in 2006. That was an actual game that was released, and it was, yes, it was directed towards recruitment. So although they do not use these tactics in Indonesia, they have used them previously, and maybe they will use them again. And that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Wade. I think the committee has reminded me that the time is up for the discussion session between the presenters and the moderators. After this, we will enter the break session for 10 minutes, and we will be back to the breakout rooms. And after the breakout rooms, there is a discussion session with all of the participants. Thank you very much for Professor Qasim and Faiq. So we will enter the break session for now. The MC, time is yours.
Right, thank you so much, Mr. Maula. And thank you so much for for the very insightful presentations. I really can't wait for further discussions with both Ms. Dr. Mohammad Qasim and Mr. Faiq.
Yes, of course. The matter is very enlightening, combined with a wonderful presentation. I believe that all of the students here, including me, have gained many new knowledge and insight about an issue in peace and security.
Okay, and friends, we actually have been here for almost 2 hours, and the time shows that it is already 4:35 p.m. in Indonesia time, and it's time for Asar prayer starting from now. The break time will be 10 minutes, so the session will start again at 3 p.m. in Indonesia time. And see you guys.
Okay.
Nalikane ing tirta nadi ngenteni tekane bis wayah wengi tanganmu tak kanthi kowe ngucap janji lunga mesti bali rasane ngitung nganti lali wes pirang tahun anggonku ngenteni sliramu ning kene tak tunggu nganti saelingmu mongso rendang wis ganti ketika apa kowe ra krasa yen kowe isih seneng lan tresno kudune kowe krasa oh nadi ngenteni tekane bis wayah wengi tanganmu tak kanthi kowe ngucap janji lunga mesti bali wes suwe kangen sing tak rasake rasane koyo ngene ning kene aku ngenteni kowe aku kangenku mung kanggo kowe nalikane ing tirta nadi ngenteni tekane bis wayah wengi tanganmu tak kanthi kowe ngucap janji lunga mesti bali wes suwe kangen sing tak nganti kowe ngucap janji lunga mesti bali rasane ngitung nganti lali wes pirang tahun anggonku ngenteni sliramu ning kene tak tunggu nganti saelingmu mongso rendang wis ganti ketika apa kowe ra krasa yen kowe isih seneng lan tresno kudune kowe krasa nalikane ing tirta nadi
Okay, welcome back everyone to the sessions. Since we have much insightful knowledge delivered by Dr. Mohammad Qasim and Mr. Faiq with the top issue in peace and security, we must be ready for amazing discussion ahead. However, before we continue our agenda for today, we need some kind of relaxation to refresh our mind so that we can have a great discussion after this.
Okay, and I'm absolutely agree with you, Daivan. What if we play a game together with the participants? I'm sure that everyone here will be delighted to have a little bit of refreshing sessions before we start our exclusive discussion.
Of course, I'm agree with you, Refi. Let's go. Let's play some games in IRUD Summer Course Game Championship 2023. Fasten your belt and get ready to compete with your fellow student for the championship title. Today, we will be playing Guess the Movie Name. My partner will read out the rules that will be used during the game.
Okay, who is curious about today's game? And we're coming with a movie game, and I will read the rules for today. A group of emojis will be displayed on the screen, such as people, expression, animal, etc. So pay attention carefully because to answer questions, you will need to use your own judgment to decide which is the name of the movie associated with those certain groups of emojis.
And the student will be given 30 seconds to think and to guess the movie name. No need to raise your hand sign. Just type your answer in the comment section, and MC and the committee will watch the comment section. So please do your best to guess correctly and quickly. The student with the fastest and most correct answer will be the winner.
Okay, and don't worry everyone, because the score of the game of each student will be counted, and at the end of the program, there will be some awards for the students who give the best participations completed with additional certificates from the IRUD Summer Course 2023. And let's get to the movie.
Of course, maybe we're going to the first movie. Okay, the committee already spilled the one. Oh my God.
Wow, people are so excited, right?
Yes, very exciting. We don't have any discussion first, and maybe the committee will be looking for the first answer, right?
Right. It seems like the first question is easy peasy.
Yes, this is a legendary movie. And okay, many people is answering Lion King in the comment section.
Okay, please committee show us the real answers.
Okay, maybe this is quite still easy, right, Revi?
Yeah, because everyone can guess it in just one clench, and maybe we should move to the next second movie.
Yes, of course we can. Okay, this one, I bet everyone knows this movie. Of course, too. There's a balloon and there's a home. Many movie, I think. Still.
I believe it's a very famous movie back then when in our childhood memories, and yeah, everyone. It seems like everyone knows already.
Oh, I'm looking at the comment section here. Already many people, many students already answered. Up. Yes, I think that's a Disney cartoon, right?
Yeah, it's a cartoon movie, and maybe the committee can reveal the answer for us, the moment of truth.
Of course, let's see. And I think this second movie is still easy for the student here, for the participant. And let's go into the third movie, right? Okay.
Wow, it's quite complicated. You've got this astronaut and a little rocket. What would it be? Wow.
I think it's more tricky. And get ready for the answer, guys. This is very tricky. Some attendants here already answered. There's somebody answer interstellar, light year, rocket. Oh, and somebody from the committee say already this kind of hard. I think it's quietly hard, Revi.
Yeah. Is it Marvel? Is it Lightyear or Interstellar or Star Wars? Maybe the committee knows the answers, right?
Somebody answer Armageddon too.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe for not long time again, committee, can you spill the answer? Okay.
Yeah, it's right for Interstellar. And the next movie,
Okay. Next movie is quite easy, I think. Yes. Many students already answered the question in the comment section, Ravi. You can read it there.
it's full of Thor. I guess everyone here loves Marvel's film.
Yeah. Okay. Kinda. I think the committee can spill the answer too for this fourth movie.
It's
Yeah.
Thor.
I think it's quite easy. And Thor is one of the famous actor in Marvel Universe. Okay.
All right, what we've got for the next questions? Wow, it's very clueless. It seems like Cars, Robocop. Which one is the best answer? Is the right one?
Oh, I'm looking for the comment section. It's already many enthusiasm from the student. Okay, all right. Some of them answer Cars. Some people to answer Robocars, Transformer. It's many of them. Ford versus Ferrari. You know, from this emoji, it's quite tricky too, Revi.
Yeah, it's a little bit funny how you answer Ford versus Ferrari. Yeah, it can be the answer.
I
It
think.
can be the answer.
Yeah. Oh,
Maybe.
somebody answered Tokyo Drift too.
Ah, yeah. Oh, Wall-E.
Wall-E. Somebody answered Wall-E too. Okay, already. I think we can spill the answer right now, Revi.
Okay, the committee, please.
Okay.
Okay.
The answer is Transformer. It's quite legendary too, you know. This one of greatest movie too for me. And many student here is got trick it out with the answer. There's somebody answer on Cars too, Rafi.
Yeah, yes. This one comment is actually quite funny. Thomas and his friends. It's not a train, it's a car. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry.
I think that is car, not a train.
Yeah, that is okay.
Yeah, it's
You've got the
okay.
imaginations. Okay, maybe the next question, please.
And maybe this is our last question in this game session. Okay, there's a young guy with the glazes with the magic things. What do you think, Refi, about this?
I don't know. Maybe it's Woody. Oh, I'm sorry. Woody didn't even wear glasses. What would it be? It's like it seems like this young boy is everyone's favorite.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. If I read in the comment section, many students is answering Harry Potter, but some students answering The Greatest Showman too, and Willy Wonka.
No, I don't think it's Willy Wonka. The young boy seems like he doesn't favor chocolate.
But
unfortunately.
It's quite funny. One of the question, one of the answer is bayi minta kacamata tongkat sihir. It's quite funny. Yeah. But I think we are going to the answer here. Committee, please. Okay.
Yay.
The answer is Harry Potter.
Harry Potter.
Harry
You
Potter.
got right. Congratulations for all who can answer correctly all the questions.
Yes, not gonna lie about this, Rafi. This game is this was really fun, and I think We hope the participant was having fun as well.
Yeah, because I was having fun, but unfortunately, we cannot just play this a little bit more. But I was hoping we can play this game on the next sessions, maybe with a little more challenging questions.
Of course, I'm agree with you right now, RFE. Anyway, we will announce the winner of the game, but we're gonna waiting for the calculation from the committee. Are the committees already have the winners today?
Yeah,
I think the committees already have the winner for today. Maybe Refi, you can tell who's the winner for
all
today's.
right. It's actually quite difficult to choose or to know who is the winner because basically all of them are guessing the right answers. But unfortunately, we only choose 3 winners for these sessions. And the moment of truth, congratulations for Hizkia Abednego as the first winner. And for the second winner is Lutfa. And the third winner is Chaesa Randi.
Wow.
You are the winner of these game sessions and guess the movie name. Yay! For those, don't worry. Please take your victory tomorrow for more games and for more challenging events. Because this is so fun, right, Devan?
Of course, it's very, very fun and refreshing for me because after you have a lot of hearing a lot of presentation and discussion, and this is some intermezzo. I think we're having fun here, and no worries, guys. All of you are the winner for me. I really enjoy this game. Anyway, since we have been relaxed and ready for the next agenda, we give the floor back to the moderator for leading the next session. To Mr. Maula, the time and screen is yours.
Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Maula?
Yeah, Devan?
Okay, the time is yours again, Mr. Maula.
Oh, it's the condition is already over. Okay. So we will enter the breakout room for 20 minutes. Uh,
Sorry, Mr. Maula, we cannot hear you.
Hello, can you hear my voice?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Okay, so sorry with technical problems. So we will enter the breakout room session for 20 minutes. The first room will be with me and Professor Qasim, and the second room will be with Mas Faiq. To all the participants, please feel free to join which room that you prefer. Okay, hello everyone. Is everybody already here in the main room? Okay, for the session, we will open up question from the participants to the speakers. So the participants and the speakers can interact directly. Anyone would like to ask any question to Mr. Faiq or Professor Qasim? Okay, Rafika, time is yours. Rafika Husna.
Thank you. Before that, I want to ask the question for Mr. Not Mr. The question, I'm interested in the paper of terrorism and radicalism in the paper of the first professor of the first speaker. And I have the question for the speaker first, for the first speaker or the first presentation is, for the first is about, we already know that the impact of radicalism and terrorism in the world, in the global, is have the Islamophobia. And we already know that Islamophobia is really trending for the last tragedy in the 9/11 and for the right now. And the impact of that is the activity of the bone of the Quran. That is the really activity that a heart of the Islam as a Muslim. And the question is, as Islamophobia is as a same of the anti-Semitism, where this is the rise of the unlike of the Jewish people. We already know that Jewish people is heart of Palestinian people in the Palestine, but the reality is not their activity is to burn of the Bible or the another scripture in our other religions. But in Islam, we have a right to burn as an activity to burn of Quran. Then the question is, what's your opinion, sir, about that issue? Where as a discrimination of Muslim, then they have activity to burn of Quran. And the two question is about already we use your paper to send out as a student that the possibility of terrorism or radicalism in the global is more slower right now. And my question for the school is, how is much of possibility the bigger of the terrorism plan? Now, I mean, I will set back again what the explanation. You purpose explain that the plan of terrorism group in the world is not plan to global strategy, but they plan to explain or not explain, but to finish the problem about the politics and other economics problem in the domestic problem. But for the right now, I want to ask you about the question: what the possibility the plan strategy from terrorism to have plan to global plan for the next future? That's my question. Thank you.
Rafika, maybe we can have one more question from the participant. Oh. Okay, Alvin Morrison asked the question in the chat room. His question is, can technological advancements such as quantum cryptography be used to enhance national security and thwart cyber terrorism? Maybe Professor Qasim and Mr. Faiq can answer it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Shall I go first or Mr. Faiq? Well, for the technology part, I think it is much better for Professor Mr. Faiq to answer to that question, as he's more familiar with that. But generally, I can say that, of course, technology, the IT, the online platforms, this has made much easier for the terrorist groups and networks to reach out, audiences around the world, while there is no certain restrictions being imposed on their outreach and the content that they disseminate through these online platforms. And now, when the AI issue is, on the spotlight, and everybody is talking about the future threats that the AI development can pose, and maybe, if terrorist groups get hands on that, and acquire that technology, what will they do with that? So these are the new big questions that we are facing, of course, which Professor Faiq will, I'm sure that will provide enough explanation, but I will go to the question from Rafika, Ms. Rafika, that about Islamophobia. Of course, when we are talking about terrorism, so it was, as we discussed, terrorism, in my perspective, it has its roots in the anti-colonial and anti-imperial reactions of the whole, Muslim society, of course. But if you look into the Cold War context, you see that, the promotion of terrorism within the Islamic societies was a project, a Western project. So that served a double purpose. One was to create a green belt, security green belt, to deter the Soviet expansionism and secure the interests of the Western countries. That was first. And second was to redirect Islamic society from that dynamism that Islam itself created and carved the great civilization in the human history, enabled the Arabs, the illiterate Arabs, to carve the greatest civilizations in the history, and they knew that dynamism in the Islamic culture and its teachings. So they redirected that toward violence. That was a project, and it is no one can deny that it was a project. So that also incited Islamophobia in the West. Islamophobia, of course, it is the thesis, antithesis, and the synthesis of the Hegelian, dialectic is there. When something is happening, that causes a reaction, and then a new synthesis will be born out of that dialogue. And Islamophobia, of course, that will create this antithesis, and it will provide some sort of support among the Muslims toward maybe, some of these terrorist groups, some sympathizers, that will increase the sympathizers for the terrorist networks. And second issue is that if we're talking about the terrorism and how it be solved, of course, we should address the root causes. You aptly, highlighted the Palestinian issue. The Palestine issue and the continued misery of in the plight of the Palestinians, that reminds us, the double standard, which once George Bernard Shaw said, that what's the difference between justice and, oppression. And say, if a man kills a tiger, that's called bravery. But if a tiger kills a man, that's called savagery. So, both takes lives. Why this is, called bravery? Because, humans are, writing the laws, defining the laws and regulations, So today also, the National Security Council, the international community, they apply a double standard on that case. They are not hearing to the Palestinians' plight. And the Israeli governments, these days we've seen that many civilians have been killed. So that is one of the sources that, gave a boost to, extremism among the Islamic communities. So such sources, occupation, today, a cultural colonialism, the new colonialism, economic colonialism in much of the Islamic countries, and the North-South division itself, itself fuels extremism. So as long as such, new colonialism in different shapes and types exists, and as long as North and South division exists, as long as, the poverty, the climate change caused by the big economies are not addressed adequately. So there is room and chances and enough needs, for the extremist groups to exploit and promote their agenda. So therefore, to counter that, this is one. And second, not just to be quick here, I'm just reminding of the Holy Quran. You said exactly, we have the Quran as the source for compassion, for mercy. If you look, in Islam, for example, it says, "La tulqu bi aydikum ila tahluka." So don't kill yourself. Suicide is all Muslim scholars have. They have issued fatwa that is, forbidden in Islam. If you look in Islam, it's not a religion of violence. Islam and Holy Quran, it says, it says that when you are encountering people, tell them nice, be nice, tell them nice things, And if you look throughout the Quran, it's moral teachings. We need to empower our religious, centers and, the religious wisdom to be highlighted, to encounter the narrative that has been generated on the daily basis on online and offline platforms by the terrorist networks that only bring defamation to Islam. So let them not be introduced as the face of Islam. We should, stand at the forefront of the international politics. And that's what, the Indonesian government and many other, major Islamic countries who are able, to do that, they should be doing that. That's the most important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maybe you can deliver your opinion, your answer.
So I'll answer Alfian Morrison's question, and I have a reaction to Muhammad Rehan Pratama's opinion. Okay, so can technological advancements such as the quantum cryptography be used to enhance national security and thwart cyber terrorism? Of course, but I am generally skeptical of these technological approaches to solving what is essentially a political and social problem. So you may argue that, for example, quantum cryptography, you can use that to transmit like secret messages from the government and maybe do a lot of more secure computing and prevent the exploitation, for example, of our data for nefarious purposes. But the problem remains that terrorism is a social problem, and this technology, these advancements in technology, will also be used by the terrorists. The quantum cryptography arguably benefits more the terrorist side than it does for us, because it enables clandestine communications which are unbreakable, right? So the principle of quantum cryptography is that a third party listening in cannot crack the encryption for the messages. So in our present circumstance, we also have Telegram, for example, these social networks in which it is very hard to decrypt and to infiltrate these networks for the anti-terroristic purposes. And I think technology will make that even harder. So if technology, you can't say that this sort of technology will not fall in the wrong hands, because they will find a way to obtain this sort of technology, and they will find a way to utilize it. And this has been this technological angle, whether it's blockchains, whether it's drones, whether it's distributed computing networks, have always been advanced as a kind of silver bullet, and they have not succeeded so far. So I am very skeptical of technologies such as cryptography and advances in cryptography and blockchains and AI and quantum computing resolving the problem of terrorism, unless these technologies are used to address wider societal issues, which they haven't been. Yes, so far we have used AI to create press releases, to steal artists' art, to very limited. So yes, I agree with Muhammad Rehan's contention that we should be more creative in using these new technologies to thwart terrorism and radicalization. But I implore also to be skeptical, because none of these technologies will serve as a silver bullet. Thank you. And so it was formatted as a question as well. How can we use these technologies to further to empower societies to build resilient barriers against violence? Well, we can use AI, for example, to allocate resources, maybe, or to automate some tasks, and to, for example, use them to, for example, filter out to use like a filtering system, maybe for websites, in order to strengthen our national firewall, things like that. But again, the terrorism is a social problem, so we have to address it socially, and that's my contention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas Faiq and Mr. Qasim. The committee has reminded me that the time for this session is already up. It is really an honor for me to moderate this session, and I would like to apologize if there is any mistakes that I made during the session. Maybe to close this session, maybe Professor Qasim and Mr. Faiq, is there any closing remarks from you?
So thank you, Mr. Maula, and the committee and all the audience, the students who participated in this program and asked questions. So I would like to, extend my gratitude to all of you, and it has been a pleasure and a privilege for me to be part of this program. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much.
I would also like to thank you for Prof. Qasim for giving very sharp insights in this session. Very interesting, and especially your experience in the field in Afghanistan as well. And I thank you also for all the participants for following the session. And I apologize, there were a few questions that were not answered, but of course we can resume contact anytime after the session is done. Thank you, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Yeah.
Okay, maybe that ends our session today. And for the question, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, we finally have reached the end of the event. Thank you so much to Dr. Mohammad Qasim Wafayezada and Mr. Muhammad Faiq Pratomo for the insightful presentations. And also, thank you for Mr. Maula Hudaya for leading the discussion session.
However, before we close today's agenda of IRUD Summer Course 2023, we will take documentation together. So please, for everyone, can turn on your camera and give us your best smile. And maybe for the committee, get ready for our documentation. And maybe I will counting 1 until 3. Maybe if the committee already ready for the documentation, maybe can give an chat from the comment section below. Are the committee already ready for the documentation? Okay. Thank you, committee. Maybe I will count for the first pick. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, maybe last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much for Mr. Qasim and Mr. Faiq for today. Please don't forget to fill in, maybe for the attendance here, please don't forget to fill in the link of attendance that has been sent by the committee in the comment section below.
And all right, thank you so much for all the speakers. On behalf of the organizing committees, I would like to apologize if we have made any mistakes throughout the event. We hope today's sessions will be beneficial for all of us. Once again, thank you everyone for gracing our classes today with your presence. We truly appreciate it. I wish you a very nice day and see you on day 4 of IRUD Summer Course in Monday, 24th of July.
Good day,
Good
everyone.
day, everyone.
Assalamualaikum. Have a nice
Waalaikumsalam, Mr.
See you,
night.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
I hope you can go soon.
Ning stasiun balapan Kutha Solo sing dadi